Hey, how's it going? My name's Joe, and today I want to show you one of the oldest pieces of my collection. Definitely the oldest piece that I have on display in my collection room. It's the vintage Star Wars 15-inch Darth Vader figure made by Kenner. This figure was a hand-me-down from my brother, who's quite a bit older than me, and he took very good care of it when he was a kid, and I played with it very gently when I was a kid too, and that's part of the reason why it's in the collection room. I have a fair collection of vintage toys, some from my childhood, and some were picked up at flea markets and yard sales, but I don't feel like they're in good enough condition to be displayed. I'm a little particular about what goes on display in my toy room, and space is at a premium. So if it's broken, if it's missing parts, if the paint's wearing off of it, then it doesn't go on display. This Darth Vader figure is different though, because he is complete, and he's in very good condition even though he's seen a lot of action. And he also has a lot of sentimental value for me. So this beer is almost gone, and I'm sure you're getting tired of looking at my ugly mug. So let's get on with a figure review. Cheers. If you've ever seen any of my other YouTube videos where I review action figures or toys, then you know I don't really give a shit about the packaging these things come in. This is a little bit different though. I don't know why my mom or my brother decided to save this, except for maybe to store the Darth Vader figure when my brother wasn't playing with it, but I'm really glad they saved this, and even though it's in rough shape, I think it adds value to the figure. Not that I'd ever dream of selling it, but if I did, I think that I would be able to get a better price for it because this box is still intact. It has some really nice artwork, some photos of the figure, and some stills from the movie. Alright, here's a 360-degree look at the vintage Star Wars 15-inch Darth Vader figure by Kenner. This figure comes with a removable cloth cape, which is made of a thin, inexpensive material, and that's why it's kind of see-through. He also comes with a really nice lightsaber that is cast in red-tinted transparent plastic, and just the lightsaber hilt is painted black. It doesn't fit in his hand very well, and I don't want to force it and risk breaking it, so it basically just holds it in his fingertips. This figure's articulation is similar to the 3 3/4 inch vintage Star Wars figures. He has 5 points of articulation, including a swivel neck, swivel hips that are set at a funny angle, and what are essentially ball socket shoulders. The figure is made out of mostly hollow plastic, and I suspect there is a spring or a rubber band inside the torso that is holding the arms in place at the shoulder. There's a YouTube channel about vintage toys called Retro Blasting, and in some of their videos they feature one of these 15-inch Darth Vader figures, but it's missing its arms. So if I had to venture a guess, I'd say that there's probably a rubber band inside the chest there that's holding the arms in place that is prone to deteriorating over time. So that makes me really skittish about moving the arms around. I don't want to break the rubber band inside there and have to try to replace it. So I really like the head sculpt on this figure. I think it looks really accurate to the movie, and the neck turns really nice and smoothly. I think the cape looks nice for the most part. I like the way it drapes over the shoulders. With a large figure like this, you have enough material for it to hang down and look a little bit more natural than it would, for instance, on a 3 3/4 inch figure. Cloth doesn't work as well. But for something this scale, I think it works really good. The ties on the cape are super long, and so that's why I have them tucked in around his shoulders, so they don't stick out like that. If either my wife or I could sew, I think it would be nice to make a new cape for him and put this one in a baggie in storage or whatever to preserve it, and give him a new cape that is not so see-through and cheap looking. This figure has lots of really nice sculpted detail. You remember in the original Star Wars movie, or A New Hope as it's known now, the tunic or whatever, these pieces of fabric actually go over the chest armor and the shoulder pads, whereas in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, he's got the shoulder pads over this bit of fabric. So, and obviously this is just plastic, but it's sculpted to look like his tunic. The chest box, I think, has nice detail on it and pretty good paint, as well as his belt. Moving down a little further, you can see he has really nice sculpted detail on his arms and on his legs there, that ribbed, padded texture of his suit. It's missing on his gloves. It has a similar pattern, but the ribbing goes this way, the opposite direction of his arms and legs. I still really like the detail on the gloves. He's got these little seam lines around each finger. And there you can see the detail in his hands there. I think that's really cool. I like these seams. Alright, here's a closer look at the lightsaber. And you can tell it's not 100% screen accurate. It's got a couple little buttons there and doesn't look exactly like Darth Vader lightsaber did in the movie. But in A New Hope, I don't think you see it that closely anyway. And you can see how it's supposed to fit in his hand, but it's just too tight, and like I said, I don't want to force it and risk breaking it. So he basically has to hold it in his fingertips. And the blade looks a little bit more pink right now, but the light's really bright against a white background. It looks a little bit more red under normal lighting conditions in my cabinet. But it's real nice and straight. And moving further down, he has that textured pattern in his pants. And the boots are not 100% accurate to the screen. There's a little bit more detail sculpted in the armor. But this was a toy that was intended to be played with by children. So I don't think that screen accuracy was their number one concern when they were making these. And the boots still look really, really nice. And as you can tell from the way these hip joints are cut, when you use the articulation, it makes the leg kick out at a weird angle. Now this figure was played with by my brother when he was a kid, and I played with it gently when I was a kid, so there are a few little nicks and dings and spots where the paint's coming off a little bit. Most notably is around his shoulders here, and these shoulders would go all the way around and out to the side. I'm trying not to manipulate them very much because I don't want to break whatever mechanism is inside there, but you see how they kind of bounce back a little bit, and there are little scrapes along his shoulder pad here where the plastic is rubbing against other plastic in the torso there. But this toy is well loved, and like I said, I'm never going to sell it. So I've seen this figure a handful of times at, flea markets, antique malls, and comic book conventions. I've never seen one that was as complete or in as good condition as mine is. Not in person anyway. Now on eBay, they have some that are mint in box, and those can cost you, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's kind of all over the place, and I've only done a little bit of research as far as how much one of these would run you. I would say probably a few $100s at least if you wanted to complete one like this. Obviously a lot of people are like me and they throw the packages away as soon as they get them and open the figures. So the box is pretty hard to find, but most of the Darth Vader figures that I've seen are missing the cape and the lightsaber. So I think this Darth Vader figure is supposed to be in scale with the 12-inch Star Wars figures that are kind of like Barbies or G.I. Joes. Larger scale figures were more popular at the time, and Kenner kind of revolutionized the action figure industry by making them 3 3/4 inch, but this line is mostly 12-inch dolls. At one point I heard that the most sought after figure in this line was the IG-88 from Empire Strikes Back. That's the robot bounty hunter. And the reason why he's so valuable is because he came out towards the end of the line before they discontinued it. They made him in far fewer numbers, and he's a character that's not as popular as Darth Vader or Chewbacca, and so there are just less examples of them out in the market now. Alright, here's the 15-inch vintage Kenner Darth Vader next to the Disney Store exclusive 12-inch electronic Luke Skywalker in X-Wing fighter pilot gear. And here's the Kenner Darth Vader next to a Disney Store exclusive electronic talking Stormtrooper figure. And I really like these Disney Store exclusive electronic figures. I think they're fantastic. I really think they screwed up by switching from these to the 7-inch scale die-cast figures. These are much better quality and value for your money, and I wish I had more of these. The bad thing about large-scale figures like this in general is that they take up a lot more room. They're typically more expensive, but these electronic figures that were Disney Store exclusives several years ago, they were pretty reasonably priced. They were around $30, I think, and I love the two that I have. And I think they scale really, really well with Darth Vader here, and that's how I display them in my collection. Alright, so there you have it. There's my review of the vintage Kenner Star Wars 15-inch Darth Vader action figure. And here he is back in his natural habitat on display in my Detolf cabinet with my other oddball Star Wars collectibles. That's all for today. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Bye.